I guess we will start. Thank you so much for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening if we are joining from different uh, time zones. It's a pleasure to have you all here in today. My name is Salima Njoki Masharia. I work with the Nuka Kenya Nisisi as a program officer, coordinating the wellness program that we're implementing in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. And it's just to help the civic actors be able to address and seek and get support matters, physical, psychological, emotional support. And we do offer trainings, awareness sessions, literacy sessions, referrals. In the program, we work with different partners here in Tanzania and Uganda. For those who are joining us for the first time today and they were not here on Thursday last week, we are running a wellness clinic for the entire month of May, which is the mental health month. And we have different topics. Last week, we had a very interesting topic on the role of art on the mental wellness. If you missed out on that, please just check out on our social media platforms. The recording was uploaded there. There are other resources that you can also tap into there, and we just learn together. And maybe if you have questions that maybe are related to these sessions, you can still post them on the chat box. But if they are maybe personal, you can still take advantage of our social media platforms, and the numbers are there, and you can reach out to us personally. So today we have another very interesting topic on the role of personality at the workplace, and I hope we shall enjoy and it shall be interactive, and all of us shall come out of this topic today have learned something. But before maybe I invite the facilitator of the day, who's Diana, and I don't want to do an intro on her behalf because she'll do that for herself. I just want also to just take this moment just to offer our support and solidarity to the victims of the situation in Kenya, that is the flooding crisis in Kenya. We've seen what is happening in Myanmar here. We've seen what is happening in the informal settlements of Mukuru, of Madare, and we cannot just sit here and not say something about it. So as an organization, we are in support, we are in solidarity, and we are sending our message of support and condolences to the victims and families who've lost their loved ones. And today also we are aware that there are human rights defenders from Madare community who were arrested yesterday and taken to Pangani police station. And I hope today they'll be arraigned in Makadara law courts. And because why they were arrested is because they're also agitating on issues of homelessness, of landlessness, of improper planning the infrastructure. So we are here also offering our support to them, and colleagues and friends and participants who've joined. If you can also take time just to visit their social media platforms and offer message of support, of solidarity, because they need us. We need each other. And that's why I'm saying we cannot just sit here today and just assume that nothing is happening in this country. A lot is happening. And that's why even this wellness program is very critical, because all these undertakings, all these atrocities, all these humiliations have a bearing on our psychological well-being. So colleagues, friends, wherever we are, far and wide, please let's stand in solidarity. And that's what collective care looks like. I think having said that, allow me to invite the facilitator of the day, Diana Kini. I don't want to do an introduction because maybe I might dilute it. She's best placed to introduce herself and tell us who she is and what she'll be taking us through. So I'll take a back seat. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Salima, for inviting me. As she has said, my name is Diana. I am a counseling psychologist. Just a second. My name is Diana. I am a counseling psychologist, a trainer, a facilitator. I'm happy to be here today. So today I will be taking you through personality. Personality in the workplace. I'm sure this is a term that a lot of us have come across. Um, we are often talking about this is my personality, this is how I behave, this is how I interact with people. And so today I'm shedding more light on what is personality, how does our personality affect us in the workplace when we're interacting with people and also in our own personal lives. So welcome. For those who are not here last week, that's what we are going to be doing today. And before we dive deep into the topic, we are going to do a little icebreaker activity. So please engage with me in the chat box, as well as unmuting yourself and taking the opportunity to speak. I think I'd love to hear your responses. Yeah, and I guess we can begin. So I would love for us to think of an animal. Think of an animal that can best describe us and share with everyone who is here today. So, for example, you can mention, I identify with a cat, and you can mention some of the traits you feel this animal has that are similar to yours. So it can be a wild animal, it can be a domestic animal, whatever you feel connects more and can explain you as a person. Yes, so if you want to speak, you can just raise your hand, then I can choose it, and you can also use the chat box. I can see Yvonne saying a camel. So you state the animal and you mention why you think, what traits do you think you share with this animal? Why is this animal similar to you, or why are you drawn to this animal? I can see Dennis saying a lion. Dennis explained to us why a lion. Yvonne is explaining why a camel. A camel, we can both walk in the desert for long without water. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Can see Maya is saying a monkey because I am very playful and sometimes naughty, but also very intelligent and able to learn quickly. Thank you for sharing. That's interesting. Salim says a leopard. I like spending most of my time alone and focus on my targets 100%. Wow, interesting. Thank you. Uh-huh. Dennis says he chose a lion because he's a fearless leader in the making. Wow. Mercy says ego. When I see opportunities from and go for them, even if it feels unattainable from afar. Okay. Thank you, Mercy. Wanja says hummingbird. A bird that can fly backwards. I love to do things in an unconventional way. Wow. Wow. Your answers are something else. I'd want to hear someone talk. Giraffe. Aaron says giraffe. We see ourselves taller and more advantaged than others. Interesting. Interesting. Your personalities are coming through from these answers. Now I want to hear someone speak. Who will take the opportunity to say something? Anyone? You can unmute yourself. Irimo says mine is the horse. It is powerful and elegant, just like me. Wow. Monica says an ego. Before I engage myself to anyone in terms of relationship, I have to make sure I have seen far. Wow. Kegao says elephant, laid back and shy, but laid back and shy, but exude a lot of confidence and very dangerous when provoked. Wow. These are very interesting answers. Very interesting. We seem to have shy people who prefer to write more than speak. Seems we have a lot of introverts in the house who don't like drawing attention to themselves. Any two volunteers who'd love to, we'd love to hear your voices. If you're confident enough, just unmute yourself. Just unmute yourself and share if you've not shared. Anyone? Wanja says there's no button for unmuting. Alan, can you be able to help us with that?
Maybe Diana, if you can just allocate the people who you want to speak so that Alan can do that. Because as a webinar, it will be yeah. I think Alan has responded. If maybe they want to speak, they can raise their hand, and Alan can enable them to speak.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're interested, please just raise your hand. Then Alan will be able to allow for you to speak. Wanja raises her hand. Yes, Wanja. Monica says typing in English is easy, but when it comes to talk, that is where I draw the line. Believe in yourself. We want to hear you speak regardless. We are not expecting perfection. Yes, Wanja?
Thanks so much, and good morning to you and all others.
Morning.
I just want to talk more about the hummingbird. The hummingbird is a very inspirational story that I had from Wangari Maathai when I was in primary school. She talks about the bird that put off the forest fire when the other big animals could not do it. So I became very curious about the bird, and among the most interesting things is that it flies backwards. And the reason why I'm so drawn into that story is because in this decade, and especially those of us who are in the civil society, there are so many challenges. There are so many things. Just last week, I went to see some of my friends who run an NGO in Mathare, and you could tell the kind of devastation. But even though they were devastated, I could also see local innovation. Wanapigia clinics yenye ni mabishte wao wasaidie watu wagonjwa, cause the doctors were on strike. And so for me, even though I acknowledged the problems, I also appreciated the challenges, the innovation. And that is how I would say, like a hummingbird, they are flying backwards by trying to solve the problems the way they are locally. So that's how I'm drawn and inspired by the hummingbird, a very small bird, but very innovative amongst life challenges. It lives in America, so it's so cold, but it tries to stay alive. So that is what I thought of sharing. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you for sharing, Wanda. That's interesting. And I think it brings out your personality as we'll continue to see further in the session. Thank you for sharing that with us. I want to challenge Monica. Monica, can we hear your voice? Monica, is it okay if Alan allows you to speak? Just raise your hand if you're comfortable. And anyone else who is, just raise your hand and Alan will unmute your mic. Anyone else?
Hi, Diana, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes,
Oh,
Victoria, yes, I can.
okay. I wanted to say an eagle because
Mm-hmm,
they state that eagles have that when
mm-hmm,
they are young ones, when they feed their young ones, but it
mm-hmm.
comes a time that they decrease in their food supply, they stir the net and let the young ones fall so that they can fly. So what I have in common with that is I see people's potential and I like to push them to where they can be because I believe in them so much.
Mm-hmm.
So I push them sometimes, the people who are around me.
Wow. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. An ego. Interesting. Thank you. Anyone else before we move to our next segment? I can see Monica has shied away. I wanted to use this opportunity to show her that this is a safe space and no judgment space where you don't have to feel perfect in order to share. Anyone else? Sawa sawa. So before we can get into the segment, I want us to be able to take a personality test so that as we start the segment, we're able to understand what it is that we are getting into. So the test might take approximately 10 minutes. So take your time as you're answering through the questions. Try to be as honest with yourself as possible. Sometimes you want to butter yourself too much, or sometimes you want to undermine yourself. So just be as honest as you can. Take your time. That's why we have about 10 minutes to take the test. And then once we are done, let's also type in our results on the chat box. I will be able to see. So I'm sharing the link. And then, Alan, I think you can cue in the music as they take the test. Someone is asking, can I share my, let me just say that again. Can I share the personality test with my team members who are not in this call? Absolutely, please. You can. Let me just share the link. I just shared the link. I hope you can see it. It's written the 16personalities.com. Is everyone able to see it in the chat? Okay. Yes, so that's the test we will be doing. As soon as you get your results, please share with us in the chat box, and then we can begin our segment. So Alan will cue in some music just to help us relax as we take the test. Then once we are done, we can begin.
Daddy,
What happened, my love?
these
Hello, hi Sylvia. If you've just joined in, we are taking a test that is in the chat box. I hope you've been able to see it. I can resend it again. Okay, So I sent it again, just check it out. We are doing a personality test for about 10 minutes. And then we share the results in the chat box. So I hope you saw it. I just resent it again. Thank you, Alan. Aaron, so the test was resent again. Hi, Sylvia. Yes, it's on the chat box just above you. I've resent it. Alan has resent it as well. I've just resent it. If you have not seen it, just check your chat box again. If you're encountering any difficulties as you take the test, please don't hesitate to ask a question on the chat box so that I can be of help. You can see results have already started streaming in. Maya says, I hope I'm spelling that right. I don't know if it's Maija or the J is silent. Please let me know in the comments. I might be butchering your name. So she says, okay, thank you. She says, I am an ENFP J. I usually get P, but today it came up J. But I'm always around 49%, 51% split. Okay. I identify as an extroverted ambivert, though. I've been feeling a bit more introverted recently, but I guess I'm still an extrovert at heart. Thank you for sharing, Sarah says, my personality type is mediator, INFP. Thank you. Dennis, you just sent back a link, so I'm not able to see what your results are. I guess we can just type in. Salim writes 49 extroverted, 51 introverted. I don't know if you've been able to see the 4 letters that are allocated once you're able to see your results. Those are the results that I want to see. For example, the way Maya has said ENFJ and Sarah has said INFPT. Those are the abbreviations that I want to see. So Mercy says ENFP. Thank you for sharing, Mercy. I want to move with everyone, so we have about 3 more minutes and then we are done. Egao says ISFJ. Thank you. Jared Ontita says INTJ. Okay, thank you, Jared, for sharing. Dennis says ENFJ. Okay. ENFJ. Nicole, ISFP. Gaugelo, I'm not sure I'm also spelling that right. Gaugelo says defender. I'm not familiar with the nicknames, so I'd really appreciate it if you used the 4-letter abbreviations that have been given once you finish the test, so that I'm flowing with you. Faith Ngetich says INFJ. Thank you for sharing, Faith. Salim says ENFJ. So I'm seeing quite a balance of introverts and extroverts in the room. Interesting. As you take the test, please ensure to also read, because it gives an overview of your traits, your strengths, and your weaknesses. So you can be reading through as we wait for everyone else to finish. 1 more minute. Gaugelo says ISFJ. Okay, thank you for sharing. I hope we are all done. We have about a minute left so that we can get into the segment. Those who are, have not finished, you can just type in your results as we continue. And our minute is done. Alan, thank you for the music. I think we can now get into our segment. Asante. And I think you can also just allow me to be able to share the screen. Thank you. So I hope everyone can be able to see the screen. So basically what we were doing is taking the test to understand our personality types and a personality test called the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, the MBTI. So that's the test that you are taking, and we'll dive into that in a second. But I want us to sort of try and understand what personality is. I'm sure in your own social circles, in your family, with your friends, with your colleagues, with your partners, you've used the word personality before. Sometimes to tell someone, that's just how my personality is. That's how I prefer interacting with people. I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. So how did it get to a place where you just know this is how you operate? So I'd love to hear, to read your responses as well in the chat box, explaining what you think personality is. So basically from our definition here today, personality is a relatively stable set of characteristics that influences an individual's behavior. So a stable set of characteristics that influences how you behave. So it could be you have noticed about yourself, you get loud when you're in a new setting of people, you don't shy away from, speaking up, or you'll find you've noticed about yourself a characteristic of being quiet when you're around a new group, and you tend to sort of observe people before you can interact with them. You may have realized that you're the type of person who enjoys one-on-one conversation as opposed to speaking in a group setting, or you're the type who enjoys speaking in a group setting as opposed to one-on-one conversation. For others, maybe you've realized you're the type of person who does not appreciate small talk, and you like just diving right into, deep issues when you're talking to people. Yeah, so this is what this statement basically means. A relatively stable set of characteristics that you've noticed about yourself that influences how you behave, either around people or even people you don't know. And in some instances, this set of characteristics tends to shine more when you're in a setting of people you're comfortable with. So maybe your family knows a different aspect of your personality than your work colleagues. So maybe when you're interacting with your work colleagues, you're all over the place, you're always bubbly, shouting, but when you're with people you're comfortable with, you tend to quiet down and you like to keep to yourself. So our personalities shine through in very different settings because we engage with people in a very different way. And so this is what this statement means. And my question for the team today will be, what makes up a person? What do you think makes up you as a person? You've been able to take the test, and I'm sure you've seen sort of like a breakdown of your own personality, and you've been able to be guided through some of the things that are your strengths and also your weaknesses. So I'd want to engage with you in the chat box just to understand, what do you think makes you up as a person? When you say, my name is Maya, my name is Sarah, my name is Wanja, my name is Victoria, my name is Yvonne. What do you think makes you up as a person? Why do you say, I am me, or this is my personality? What do you think makes you up as you? I'd want to see your responses. in the chat box. Anita says ENFP makes so much sense. I'm definitely an extrovert. I'm glad that resonates. Thank you for sharing. Those who do want to answer, you can raise your hand and your mic will be muted. Gaugelo says, please clarify the question. Okay. So basically what I'm trying to ask is, you as a person, what makes up your personality? What do you think makes up you? Some of you during our icebreaker activity were talking about, I feel like I'm an ego because, you know, I'm able to soar high and do this and this and this for others. I feel like I'm a camel. I feel like I'm a giraffe. So those are basically aspects you think are about yourself as a person. And that's what my question is about. What do you think makes you up as you? Kasoga Jacqueline says, I enjoy one-on-one conversation. I enjoy making everyone comfortable in an environment, especially those isolated. Wow, thank you for sharing, Jacqueline. You seem to be the mother hen of the group who is very thoughtful and makes sure everyone is safe. Thank you. Sylvia says, I am 90% extrovert. Okay. Dennis Kipyegon says, I am an outgoing and I never put myself before anyone. I never put myself before anyone. I would always make people comfortable before me. Wow, that seems, it's quite interesting because I have interacted with a group of civic actors before, and this seems to be a common denominator with people who are activists or are passionate about human rights. You tend to put people before yourself. That's very interesting. I'm grateful to be in a group of thoughtful individuals. Anita says, I care very much about people, making them comfortable, keeping them entertained. I feel very deeply, and on the downside, I get very affected by other people's feelings and emotions. Wow, I love the self-awareness. I love the self-awareness. Mimi says, Wanja Maina says, Mimi, I am so interesting. I read the room, then adjust. I can be quiet the whole time or pick a person or two to acquaint myself with. Wow. And then the first person to be able to answer our question, Esther, what makes me a person are my strengths and capabilities? Okay. Your strengths, the things that you do well, and the things that you feel you're capable of doing. Thank you for sharing, Wekali. Okay, anyone else who can answer our question? What makes you as a person? Monica says, I am very shy. I am a very shy person, but once umenikubali vile niko, I will surely pour my heart out without faking. Interesting. I hope everyone in our group today, in an aspect, is a Swahili speaker, and I'm not wronging others by floating in our conversation. I hope everyone can understand what others are sharing in the chat box. If you're not a Swahili speaker, please indicate in the chat box so that you don't feel left out and we're inclusive of everyone. So what makes you up as a person? Just to continue, basically, the person is made up of skills and abilities, just as Mwikali had mentioned. The person is made up of skills, abilities, their personality, their perceptions, their attitudes, values, as well as their ethics. So basically, the person is very multi-dimensional. It is not just one aspect of yourself. So personality will just be a small aspect to be able to explain you as a person. You are very complex. So personality is not the only determinant of who you are. There's so much more about yourself as a person. So your skills and your abilities, your perceptions of the world, how you see people, how you perceive situations, your attitudes towards things, your values, because we have very different values as people or as individuals. And that's why the world keeps moving. Our ethics as people. So these are all things that make us who we are as people. And that makes you unique, meaning that no one will ever be you. And I love saying that because sometimes people will ask, I've gotten the same results with, Sarah and I have gotten the same results. We are both INFP. And when I look at her, it doesn't look like we are the same. We don't have the same characteristics. And it's interesting because in as much as you may share the same personality type with someone, because people are very multidimensional, you will never be able to look like someone else. You will always have your own uniqueness because not only personality makes up who you are. We have perceptions, we have attitudes, values, ethics, your skills and abilities that most of them maybe have emanated from how you grew up, your upbringing, where you came from. So you might be an INFP who grew up in a very humble environment. And so your attitudes towards things are very different from another INFP who grew up in an environment that they were never lacking. These two individuals might never have the same ethics. They might never have the same attitudes towards things. So that in itself makes you unique as a person because we all have very unique experiences. We are very unique individuals. We have very different upbringings. We grew up in different families. And so by the virtue of that, that means that we will just never be the same, even if our personalities seem to be the same. We will never be the same because the person is a very multidimensional individual. And so that's where the question was coming from. Someone says in the chat box, Faith Nyetich says, I am an introvert. I like being indoors. I feel uncomfortable around new people, but in my social circle, but I am social around my inner circle of friends and workmates. I tend to put other people's feelings above mine. Wow, interesting. This seems to be the norm with a lot of civic actors. I hope we are taking care of ourselves, even as we are putting others' feelings above our own. It's very important for us to remember that we also matter. So what role does personality types play in the workplace? Why are we talking about personality types today? You'll find that in your work as human rights activists, people who are passionate about the rights of others, as you've said, a lot of you are passionate about putting other people's needs ahead of your own. Why is it important for us to understand the role of what our personality does in the environments we are in? One, understanding individual differences. Everyone possesses a unique set of personality traits, preferences, and tendencies. You'll find that the people that you interact with on a day-to-day basis, either in the field or even your colleagues, you'll forever be different. You'll find that sometimes you're pushing for a certain cause, but that does not mean that you see eye to eye on every issue that you're trying to make a decision on. Why? Because that means that our personalities are different. Our preferences, how we see the world, how we interpret things will always be different simply by the virtue of the fact that we have different personalities. And that does not make someone else's preference is right as opposed to someone else. So understanding our individual differences helps us work better as colleagues, and also work better with the people we interact with in the field, because you gain an understanding, and you gain knowledge that people around you will always be different. Our personalities will be different. How they see the world will be different. The things they choose to make decisions on as well will also be different, and there's nothing wrong with that. Another thing is team dynamics. Personality types influence how individuals interact and collaborate within teams. So you'll find how you interact with team members who tend to be extroverted and team members who are introverted will be very interesting. Team members who are extroverted may tend to be pushovers and take over the conversation and make decisions, while the introverts are, just trying to process the information that is taking place. And sometimes that means that introverts may be overlooked in the team dynamics. When you're coming to make decisions, you feel like the extroverted members are always making decisions and bulldozing over everyone else. So understanding how your personality plays into team dynamics will allow you to be able to also give grace to other people's personalities. When you realize that this is the type of person who cowers down when we are having meetings, or when we are trying to solve issues, or come up with solutions, you're going to be able to allow them to grow into their personality. And when you see that this person is quiet, maybe when you're talking in a team, you'll allow for them to be able to share their views, and allow for them to be able to feel comfortable within the group dynamics. So understanding this will help you become a more effective team member, because you're thoughtful of others, as well as very self-aware about how you conduct yourself within the group. Something else about the role of personality in the workplace is communication styles. Different personality types have distinct communication styles and preferences. So how individuals communicate based off of their personalities will always be different. So you'll find and someone has just mentioned in the chat box how they are social when they are with their social circle. But when they're in a group where people are new and they're not sure how these people are, they'll tend to keep quiet. And for someone else, they are social, regardless of whether this is a new group of people they don't know, or it's people they know. They'll just be open to engage in communication. So understanding how people operate will allow you not to take offense, because sometimes we are in with our colleagues, and you're like, ule akipatana na new people, they tend to, be snobbish and not want to interact with everyone else. They feel like they're better than everyone. And it's not coming from that. It could be this person is influenced by how their personality allows them to conduct themselves. It could be that they are more comfortable in first reading the room, being able to interpret how everyone else is behaving, and knowing where to place themselves. So by virtue of that, then our communication styles will always be different because of our distinct personalities. Our personality types, understanding them also means that we are able to understand how to solve conflict. So there are people who will be more inclined to first go and stew over the issue, take their time, and then come back and want to solve things. While there are others who want to talk there and then, let's finish it here and now. Why are we carrying it forward? And so when we don't understand this about each other, then there's constant, we are constantly rubbing shoulders, or rubbing heads, because you feel like the other person is not being considerate of you. So understanding how people operate when conflict is there is very important, and it allows you to give grace to the other person by realizing how can we come to a healthy compromise. If I'm the type who likes going and taking a full day to, first digest the information of what happened for there to be conflict and then come back, then there's this individual who wants to be able to, just deal with the conflict. Then how can we be able to compromise so that both of us are heard? So understanding your personalities makes it very easy for conflict to be resolved anytime you feel like you're having conflict with your colleagues or the people that you're working with. And then also leadership development. I've seen a lot of people, there's someone, as we were talking about animals, who said he's a lion because he feels that he can be in charge and, bring people together. And so understanding that about yourself also helps you to nurture your capabilities and your strengths. If you feel like your strength is leadership, you're able to really fine tune it to be able to be of service to other people. So understanding your personality plays a huge role in whether you're able to develop your leadership skills, employee engagement and satisfaction. So when you're in the field, you find that as you are working with different people, so sometimes maybe you're trying to understand people's issues and you're working together with your colleagues. If you're not aware of their personality, you may not understand how the approach they use to be able to work. And you may judge how they are taking their time to do their things, and you may not understand where they are coming from. But once you have a grasp of, this person's personality is this way, then it becomes easier to understand them, and it becomes easier to be able to work together because you're understanding that you are unique and that everyone has each role that they're able to do well, and that the decisions that they are making comes because of basically how their personality is. So it's important to understand that. Task allocation and role fit. So you may find that as you work together with your colleagues, especially in the as civic actors, you'll find that there are others who are best suited when it comes to work that involves being in the field. And they are very good with interacting with people, understanding people's issues, being able to offer solutions. You might find that there are colleagues that fit perfectly for that role, while you find that there are other colleagues who are best suited with coming up with solutions and not necessarily being in the field, because you might find that they get very anxious when they're in large crowds of people. And sometimes you might judge and feel, this person doesn't want to do work. Why do they just like isolating themselves? But it's coming from a place that's what their personality is comfortable with. And so once we are able to understand this, we're able to give each other roles that fit our personality types. And when we are able to give each other roles that suit our personality types, we're able to thrive, because then we are not doing things that are outside our norms. We are not doing things that are outside our preferences. And that enhances the quality of the work that we are doing. If we give a role to someone who is best suited, working with people in the field and engaging with others and, being a social bird, then you find that they thrive in the roles that they are given. And when we give the role to someone else who is best suited in, not being on the ground and working from the sidelines, then they also thrive on their role because they're not put in the spotlight and they're not given a role that doesn't match their personality. So it's very important to understand how our roles fit, how our personality fits the type of roles that we have within the workplace. Yes, Salima says, if you have questions, post them here and I will be able to respond. Yes, as I continue speaking, if you you feel like you're getting lost somewhere, please engage with me in the chat. So what role then does personality types play in your personal life? In your own personal life, how does your personality type play? When you understand your personality, how is it able to play out in your personal life, as we've just looked at the workplace relationships? For example, an individual with a preference for, sorry about that, an individual with a preference for introversion might enjoy deep one-on-one conversations, while someone with a preference for extraversion may thrive in social gatherings, drawing energy from being around others. And so when you recognize this about yourself and you recognize this about your partner, then it becomes very easy to engage with each other, and you're not looking at it from a point of judgment. Because you find in your personal life, you'll very much judge the people who tend to not want to be outgoing in their activities. Why is this person always in the house? They want to be outside, and this person always wants to be bundled up in the house watching a movie, and this just seems not to work for me. So understanding how personalities play into how people behave, will be able to understand even how to set boundaries, or the type of people you want in your space, or the type of people you don't want in your space. You'll find that because someone is extroverted and they like being outside and doing a lot of activities, once you understand personalities, you may choose the type of partners you go for are people who are also outgoing. You don't want people who will slump you with wanting to stay home. And if you understand that you're an introvert who does not like to be pushed, you might prefer to choose partners who are also introverted just like you, and you can enjoy each other's company from the home, and not necessarily being pressured into always doing activities outside. Career choices as well. I've just been able to pick up how a lot of you are mentioning that it is second to nature how you pick, how you're able to put other people's needs above your own. And I'm realizing that's a common quality, characteristic trait with human rights activists or civic actors. And you find that because of your personality, you're inclined to a certain career. So if you are inclined to put other people's needs above your own, you'll find yourself in careers where you want to fight for others, or in careers where you're constantly fighting for justice and making sure other people are heard and other people's needs are met. So it's not by chance that you choose the careers you're in, or you feel like your heart beats for a certain career. It's because your personality is more comfortable to thrive in the career that you choose. For example, my personality is INFP, and one of the main character strengths of mine that is mentioned as an INFP is that I am a very empathetic person. So by nature of that, I found myself in a career that I get to empathize with people every day and exhaust myself from empathizing with people every day. And I thrive in that because I've gone for something that best suits my career. So if I was to go for something where it's just numbers, 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 and I have to be analytical, I'd really be struggling, because then that means I wouldn't be thriving as an individual, because I've not honored my personality. So career choices are heavily, heavily influenced by your personality type. So look into where you're at and just think for a second. Why did I choose to do what I'm doing now? Why does it make sense for me to be a civic actor? Why am I where I am today? Is it because of, maybe I feel very inclined to justice? or maybe I empathize with people a lot, or maybe I like to advocate for social change. It could be a lot of things. So take this time to introspect and understand, why am I where I am today? As Mwikali says, self-awareness and knowing the importance of accepting genuine feedback helped me in shaping my personality. Wow. Yes, and this is one aspect of, learning self-awareness, because if you are now aware of what your personality is, it helps you thrive in other areas of your life, because you're open to now being able to work on things because you know how you function. For a car to be able to drive from one point to another, we have to understand how a car operates inside. And I'd say that's the same thing with understanding your personality type. When you understand that this thing makes me tick, this thing makes me angry, I'm more comfortable in such a setting, I thrive more when I'm doing this, then it helps you understand how you can be able to solve things in your life and how you can be able to make decisions that are best suited for you. So that aspect of self-awareness is very, very important. Hobbies and interests. Once you understand your personality, it's also very easy to choose a hobby. You can't choose a hobby that involves so much social interaction and you're an introvert, because you're going to burn out. The very basis of introvertedness is recharging when you're on your own. So when you're choosing hobbies or when you're choosing interests that are very social based, you find yourself constantly being drained and you're not aware where this is coming from. But now when you understand your personality, you're like, even the hobbies I choose are going to be, very intimate based, so that I get time to recharge for myself. Or even on the flip side, you can say, because I'm an introvert, I want to push myself out of my comfort zone and be in areas where I'm socially engaged, because I know I won't do this naturally. It won't come to me naturally. So I want to push myself out of my comfort zone and do this. Or if you're an extrovert and you're choosing hobbies that are very social based, you might, for the flip side, choose to engage in hobbies that mean that you're interacting with yourself more and you're being more intimate, being in areas where you're more intimate with yourself instead of being socially engaged. So understanding your personality also gears you to the interests that you end up being inclined to and the hobbies that you find yourself choosing. And then your learning styles as well. You'll find that people who, I know you've seen in your results, there are people on the last abbreviation of the letters that you found, there are some people who are either J's or P's. So you'll find that individuals with a preference for judging, with the J on the end of that letter, of those abbreviations, might prefer structured learning environments. So J's are people who are structured. From the moment you wake up in the morning, you have a list of what you want to do until the evening when you want to go to bed. And the people with the P on their types might prefer to thrive in flexible learning environments. And you find these are people who are in constant war with having structure. And so this is not a person who will always have lists and trying to say, okay, from 10 to 11, this is what I'll be doing. From 12 to 1, this is what I'm going to be doing. So because of our different personality types, we'll also realize that our learning styles will be very different by the virtue of that. So people who have J's in their abbreviation of their MBTIs will prefer to be in structured environments, while people with P in their MBTIs might thrive in more flexible learning contexts that allow for them to be spontaneous, because then that's what our personality types dictate. And then stress and personal growth. When you're able to know your personality, you're able to learn how to manage stress. For instance, an extrovert might realize that for me, how I always unwind is when I'm going to the gym where people are there. That's how I can be able to take away stress. After a long day of interacting with people and being in traumatic environments, seeing traumatic things, for me, unwinding is through being in the gym and interacting with others socially. And for someone with introversion might find solitude when I'm able to put down good jazz music, pour myself a glass of wine and listen to music, or drink a cup of tea, or drink a cup of uji and just read a book. That's where I'm able to unwind and unload the stresses of life. So once we're able to understand how our personality types play in, then we're also able to understand how personal growth can come into the picture. We're able to understand how our introversion, our extroversion plays a role in our own lives. So an activity. I'd like to invite us to share how personality influences your own interactions and relationships in your work as civic actors. So I'm sure as I was speaking, you are reflecting on how you think your personality has played a role in the work that you do. So I'd want to hear your own experiences. I'd want to hear you share how you feel that your personality has influenced your own interactions and relationships in your work as civic actors. So those who'd like to speak, just raise your hand and Alan will be able to unmute your mic, and others can share in the chat as well. So how has personality played a role in your work as a civic actor? Yes, I can see Esther has raised her hand. Yes, Esther.
Good morning. I'm sorry
Morning.
I came late. Yes, I'm sorry I came late, but I'm still catching up. Personality, especially my personality now, if I talk about it, how it has influenced my interaction with people and especially in the civic space. I know personally I'm extrovert. I'm able to interact with people. And also in the civic space, you get a lot of setbacks and a lot of, you meet a lot of intimidation and everything, but I'm able to accommodate because of my nature of, I don't carry things for so long. So if I have a grudge with somebody, I'm able to just to leave it before the end of the day. So my personality of not carrying a lot of grudge has enabled me to be able to interact with the people of different characters. Because when you are doing, especially the advocacy, you are unagonga mtu fulani what the person is doing, you are against what that person is doing in a way. If it's corruption, you are trying to tell that person to get out of it. If it's something that person has not done well, you are telling that person it is not good to do this. So that person will also throw it back to you. So my personality has helped me so much in terms of surviving that space. Thank you.
Wow, that's interesting. That you are aware of that aspect of yourself and just being able to accommodate others. You know, when you're advocating, you're also tasked with being able to accommodate people and sometimes their stresses and how they come off very strong. And I love the fact that you're aware that you're able to accommodate them simply because of your personality. Thank you for sharing, Esther. Anyone else, you can raise your hand. Alan will be able to see you. I can see Redemptor, Mwikali. Yes, Redemptor?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so mine, it would appear like a negative personal trait. Is almost like I hold a grudge. And I'm not ashamed to say I hold a grudge. And how this has helped me is that when I find an injustice in society, then I stick to it. I am not letting it go. I'm like a dog with a bone. I will wake up thinking about that thing. I will sleep thinking about that thing so that I get some action. So what I used to think was a very negative attribute of my personality has helped me in this work. That yes, alikosewa, like this happened to this girl, and the next day I'm still, until sometimes it takes a very long time for us to get justice for some of the cases we pursue. But the fact that even in my own personal life, I didn't let it go without resolving it, has helped me. Of course, is that there's always the aspect of feeling like you're defeated and you can't do anything about it. But now I feel like that thing of not letting go when an offense has been committed, I'm forthright. I'll tell you you've offended me and I'll take it further. I'll keep going at it. So in terms of now coming and applying it to a wider scale, I find it's actually a good thing. Thank you.
Very interesting. And that goes back to my point about how we can learn how personalities fit in the jobs that we choose. And if you will have landed in a different career, you will have constantly been judging yourself because why do I never let go of things? But because you found yourself in something that speaks to your heart, then it really works because civic actors who are relentless and constantly following up on cases of injustice are really people who I'm always clapping for because you are constantly, aware of the needs of others and the plight of others who have not been dealt a good hand. And so when you're constantly pushing, it's like knocking on a door until that door gets opened. So it looked like a trait that was negative in the past, but because you landed in a career that fits your personality, then it's seeming to work for you. I love listening to that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Redempta, for sharing. I can see Victoria has also raised her hand.
Okay, so for me, I am an INFJ, so I am not specifically an extrovert. I'm an introvert, but I have the F part of my personality that I am empathetic and like I like to see social harmony, like people like being in harmony. So that is me out of my comfort zone to like fight for other people's rights, even if like speaking up in crowds and difficult topics, it's hard for me. But because I am empathetic of the people suffering and I want to see like people being in peace and in harmony, then that my personality helps in that part.
Wow, that's interesting that you say that because there's the assumption that because I'm an introvert, I won't speak for people, or because they're an extrovert, they are going to speak. Sometimes the thing that makes you find yourself in the civic space is because of the empathy that you have for others. And because the empathy that you have for others is so great, even if it's uncomfortable to speak in large groups, you're going to do it simply because you want to ensure the people you have empathy for have received justice, their voices have been able to be heard. So it doesn't matter necessarily if you're an introvert or an extrovert, as long as people's voices have been heard, then that's very important because then you realize you are best suited because your personality fits that role. So thank you for sharing with us, Victoria. I can see Aaron mention in the chat, my personality has made me build networks and engage with different people of different social classes and mingle freely. Nelima says, I resonate with Redemptor too. Bad people don't understand me and I keep questioning myself because of that relentless nature of always, holding a grudge and not leaving an injustice. Interesting. Anita says, I am a natural born campaigner. It has definitely helped me build a lot, networks and learn a lot. I also genuinely care about what I talk about. I will never do something just because it's there or just because it's the trend. I get banned a lot though, since I am very trusting. I believe everyone honestly cares about making life better for others, which may be a blessing and a curse at the same time, because that caring about others ensures that you are doing your job. But at the same time, being able to be too trusting of others easily, as you've just said, may burn you at the end of the day, because you have the belief that everyone thinks like you. And you find that you get with people who want to suck off your ability to trust to others and use it in the wrong way. So thank you for sharing that, Anita. So as we move to the next segment, anyone else who I have left out who might have wanted to share? Any other hand? Any other hand? Okay, Aaron is asking, I have an A at the end of my trait. What does it mean? Okay, we are getting to that. Just to be at par with others, Mukali asks, I came late. I just hear P, F, J, etc. Can you make me understand same after the meeting? I will appreciate. Okay, Mukali, we were taking an MBTI test. Basically, it's a personality test to be able to understand your traits as a person. So the PFJ, the ones that you keep seeing people mentioning, are acronyms that are used to explain facets of your personality, and that's what we are getting into. So hopefully as we get into it, you'll be able to understand. Meanwhile, if you've not taken the test, I have shared with you the link again on the comment section. Just look at it and take the test as we continue. So thank you for engaging with me in that activity. I think we can move on to the next thing. So we are going to be talking about the Myers-Briggs type indicator, the MBTI, the test you just took. So what is the MBTI and why was it important for you to take the test? Or how come that test is able to explain your personality as an individual? So the Myers-Briggs type indicator is basically is a widely used personality assessment tool that provides a framework for understanding and categorizing personality diversity. This test was developed by a mother and a daughter. So the MBTI basically was developed by this mother and daughter, putting into account Carl Jung, who was a psychologist, putting into account his theories of psychological types, and they were aiming to identify an individual's preference across 4 key dimensions. So the MBTI was developed by a mother and a daughter who were also psychologists and interested in the work of a psychologist who had been there previously and who had already done previous works and developed theories. And this man was Carl Jung. And so Carl Jung had developed theories to try and explain the personality of human beings. And so the MBTI, the test you just took, was a framework that was created by the mother and a daughter to further explain the theories of Carl Jung as a psychologist. And so Carl Jung's theory, what was Carl Jung's theory? So Carl Jung basically was saying that individuals experience the world and make decisions based on inherent psychological preferences, which he categorized into dichotomous pairs. So he categorized them into attitudes and functions. And that's what leads to the letters that you're seeing in the test that you have just taken. So basically, we either have extrovert or introvert. And that's where you see the E and the I. So a lot of you have taken the test and you're either finding E NFJ or INFJ. So the extroversion and the introversion part, those are the abbreviations of the letters that you see on the first letter. The E stands for extroversion, the I stands for introversion. So Kaliang was proposing that individuals have different orientations toward the external world. Extroverts are primarily focused on external stimuli, social interaction, and the outer environment, while introverts are more focused on their internal thoughts, feelings, and reflections. So Kaliang was saying that individuals exist in the world either in two ways. You either look at the world from an external stimuli point of view, or you look at the world from an internal stimuli point of view, where you factor in your thoughts, your feelings, and your reflection. So that is what explains the first letter in your abbreviations. So it's either E or I when you take the test. So you'll find that you either find yourself as an extrovert or as an introvert. And Myers and her daughter were able to explain that framework to the point where you can know the percentage of your extroversion and introversion. Simply, basically to say that not everyone is a full extrovert and not everyone is a full introvert. That's why you'll find some people calling themselves ambivert. I've seen someone who has a 52% in extroversion, 48% in introversion. So that person does not necessarily feel like an extrovert or an introvert because the percentages are almost the same. But the letter that will come up, you'll find that because the higher percentage is the extroversion, they are going to be called either ENFP, ENFJ, ESTJ, simply because of the extroversion being more in percentage than the introversion. And since I'm explaining sort of like a complicated concept, please ask your questions in the chat. I'm also following with you to be able to help you where you may feel stuck. So the other function will be sensing versus intuition. When you look at the second letter in the test that you have just done, you will see you either have an S or an N. You'll find that you either have an S or an N. And basically, Kaliang was saying he identified two primary ways in which individuals gather information. So the second letter in those four abbreviations is how you are able to gather information as an individual. So you're either able to gather information through sensing or through your intuition. So sensing involves perceiving information through your five senses and focusing on a concrete, tangible detail of the present moment, while if you found N is what stands for intuition. On the other hand, it involves perceiving patterns, possibilities, and underlying meanings beyond what is immediately observable. So we find that an individual can be an extrovert who is a sensor or an extrovert who uses their intuition. So in the second letter, it's S versus N. S standing for the sensing, N standing for your intuition. And that's how you're able to perceive information. Now, the third letter is the thinking versus the feeling. When you look at the third letter in your abbreviation, you'll find that you either have an F or you have a T. So basically, what this means is that Young proposed two different modes of decision making. So when people are making decisions, you're either making decisions through thinking or you're either making decisions through feeling. And there are people who are inclined to make decisions as thinkers, while others are inclined to make decisions as feelers. So if you have an F, as the third abbreviation, then how you make decisions is based on your values, is based on your emotions and subjective considerations. So you're always thinking of, how can I be able to make a decision that makes me feel good? While someone who has a T as the third abbreviation is always thinking, how can I make a decision based on the analysis I've done, the objective criteria that I'm seeing, and the logic that I'm looking at. And as you've seen, percentages may vary. You might find a thinker who has 80% thinking, 20% feeling. So the abbreviation that will be put there is a T, simply to mean that no person is totally making full decisions on logic, analysis, and criteria. There's also an aspect of your feelings involved. And also, there is no one who's totally making decisions only on their feelings and emotions. You're also factoring in the logic part of things. So you're not fully a feeler and you're not fully a thinker. There's an aspect that comes in where thinking is involved versus feeling is involved. So I hope we are together until there. The third letter on the abbreviation stands for either feeling or thinking. So you are either a thinker or you're either a feeler. Then the final letter, as I had mentioned earlier, basically stands for, you can either see the J or the P. So the J stands for judging and the P stands for perceiving. So judging, not in the aspect that we all know what judging means. So judging in the aspect that you make decisions more on structure, as opposed to someone who perceives information, they make decisions based on being spontaneous. So when you find that J is the last abbreviation in your acronym, you find that you're a very structured individual. How you plan your day, you'll find that you work on lists. You've created your to-do list. This is what I have to do today in order to finish. And you find that anytime one thing that you had planned on your to-do list does not work out, it totally throws you off balance. While someone who has a P as the last thing on the abbreviation thrives so much on being spontaneous. These are the type of people who will wake up and they'll go with the flow as the day goes. They're not necessarily looking to plan their day. They're not necessarily looking to do things in their to-do list. They feel like to-do lists are very suffocating for them. So up until there, I hope we are good. If you have any questions, please engage with me in the chat box so that you're not getting lost and you're understanding. I hope we are together until that point. So basically, the MBTI is based on Carl Jung's theory of psychological types and aims to identify an individual's preference across the 4 key dimensions. So as I have mentioned, the first abbreviation on the 4 acronyms is extroversion or introversion. So you're either an extrovert or you're either an introvert. So individuals who prefer extroversion, they may tend to focus on the external world. They are energized by social interactions, are often outgoing and expressive. For example, an extroverted person might enjoy attending parties, networking events, and team meetings. And I think if I can scroll back on our charts, there's someone who said that, I don't know if it was Aaron, who said that. Yes, Aaron said that my personality has made me build networks and engage with people, of different social classes and mingle freely. And if I was to probe further, Aaron, you'll tell me that you are an extrovert. The first abbreviation on your letter is E, because that is the strong suit, the strength of an extrovert. They're able to thrive in networking events. They're able to form social networks. They're able to be such a good team player because extroversion allows you to focus on the external world, while an introvert may tend to focus on the inner world, gain energy from their solitude. They are more reserved and very reflective in social settings. An introverted individual might recharge by spending time alone, either reading a book, gardening, or engaging in a solitary hobby, as opposed to an extrovert. It's very hard to find them seated still, enjoying their own company. Not that it can't happen, but most of them gain their energy from being in a social setting, while introverts gain their energy from being in a more intimate setting. Then when we come to the second abbreviations in your letters, the sensors versus the intuitives. So sensors are individuals who prefer relying on concrete information gathered from their five senses. And I think I've quoted someone who is a sensor as you were showing me your results. I think there's someone who had ISFP, Nicole, and Gaugelo had ISFJ as her results. So these people rely on their five senses to be able to make practical decisions. For example, this is someone who might excel in roles that involve data analysis, quality control, or hands-on activities such as cooking or woodworking. Why? Because it is engaging with their five senses. Whereas someone who has an N as their second abbreviation in the acronym, these are people who prefer the intuition to rely on patterns, possibilities, and future-oriented thinking. They are very imaginative, and they may focus on the big picture rather than specific details. For instance, a person with intuitive preferences might thrive in roles that involve innovation, strategic planning, or envisioning long-term goals and objectives. So this kind of individual, when put in a role that involves them to dream, to be able to plan, they do so well because they are engaging with their intuition. They are looking at patterns, they are looking at possibilities. This is the type of person who will tell you, I feel like this and this will happen. And when you ask them for proof, they're not necessarily going to be able to give you, but they'll tell you, I just know. I just know this is going to happen. Why? Because they rely strongly on their intuition to be able to make decisions and to be able to gather patterns of different things to be able to come up with long-term goals and objectives. A thinker versus a feeler, and that's the third abbreviation in the four-letter word. So you find that you either have T or F as your abbreviation, and thinking stands for individuals who prefer making decisions based on logic. This is the type of person, maybe when you're in a team and you're trying to come up with something on the ground, maybe you're going to be able to do a rescue. They're thinking on the logical aspect, how to be able to get the victim out of that place, how to do 1, 2, 3. While a feeler is looking at, when we do this, will the victim feel okay? Will the victim be able to be helped to feel secure? Will the victim be able to feel safe as we remove them out of that place? Will their identity be hidden? So these individuals are all working towards one common goal, but they're looking at very different things in that same situation. And this is based mainly on how they're able to make decisions and come up with decisions on the go in the roles that they are playing. So those who are confused, the third abbreviation in the four-letter word, you either have an F or a T, which stands for thinking versus feeling. Then the J and P at the end, now the fourth letter, It stands for individuals who prefer structure, organization, closure, and are decisive. And they tend to plan and follow through on tasks. So individuals who are working with people who have J on their MBTI, and people who have P on their MBTI, they may feel a bit suffocated with these J individuals, because J individuals like structure. They want to do things pop, 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 pop. Let's do this, after this, let's do this. While individuals who have perceiving as the last letter in their abbreviation, they want to be a little bit more spontaneous. When you're doing things in a very structured and following on tasks as they appear, then it feels very suffocating for individuals with P as their the last abbreviation on their letter. So people with P prefer, they have the preference for thriving in roles that involve being creative, brainstorming, and troubleshooting, where they're able to be flexible and adaptable. So these are not individuals who want to be rushed. They want to do things in a systematic way that works with their brain. They are not looking at following through projects in a very systematic way. And so these individuals might clash when working together, because a J individual feels like a P individual is not very serious, while a P individual feels like a J individual is very stuck up. Why do you want to control everything that everyone is doing? Just work with yourself. And so when these two individuals understand each other, they're able to come to a healthy compromise and work together through understanding that this is how this person operates and this is how I'm also operating. So I need to be able to understand them so that we can come together and do work in a way where it is more comfortable for the both of us. I can see on the chat box, Wairimu Mary says, I am an intuitive person. I work as a strategic planner, creative, and will soon be building up my research skills. So you'll find that this person thrives as a J. If you're very strategic in the way that you do things, it's because you like structure, you like planning, and you like follow through. So once you understand that, you're inclined to even pick up roles that allow you to be able to thrive. So I see Wairimu Mary also asking, what does the last letter mean? For example, I am an ENTJA. What does the A stand for? So as we continue learning the MBTI, you'll realize that the only important letters that we need to learn about are the 4 letters that I have just explained. So for Wairimu here, the E stands for her being an extrovert. Then the N stands for her being intuitive. The T stands for her being a thinker. And the J stands for her being a judger, an individual who prefers structure and planning through. So the A or the T means that you're either turbulent or you're either calm. So it means that you're an ENTJ who is a calm individual. So the people who have the T as the hyphenated abbreviation, it means that you as your personality, you're a very turbulent individual. That in whatever you do, you're not very calm in how you handle yourself. You tend to be very, all over the place, maybe too much anxiety as you're doing your things, or you're not very calm within. So basically, that's what the hyphenated letters mean. Redemptor says she's written ENGP, but I think maybe if I'm reading that correctly, ENFP, campaigner. After this test, the madness in my life makes sense. Or ENFP, okay. After this test, the madness in my life makes sense. Love my life. I'm happy it resonates for you, Debs. I'm happy it resonates. So I hope I've been able to to answer your question, Mary. As we go deeper into the MBTI, so basically this says that the MBTI assigns each individual a 4-letter personality type based on their preferences across these dimensions. And while the MBTI is not a comprehensive measure of personality and has its limitations, it provides a useful framework for understanding and appreciating the diversity of personality and preferences within individuals and the teams. So this 4-letter personality type is based on our preferences. So we are either preferring extroversion or introversion. We are either preferring sensing or using our intuition. We are either preferring thinking or feeling. We are either preferring judging or perceiving. So I hope up until there we are understanding why we have these 4-letter words as the results of our personality, and we can be able to explain them up until there. I can see another question. Is there another question? Okay. In the chat. Okay, Mary says, yes, you have. I work as a well-being educator, leading my fellow youth into a calm space where we can talk about our issues in a safe space. Salima says we are running late. Okay, so I think I'll just try and fasten the presentation by saying that so these are the 16 personality types, all put in one chart, just for you to be able to understand where you fall into and the nickname that is given to your personality type. So ESTJs are called the ambitious and the adventurers. ESTPs are called the competitive doers. ESFP, people, entertainment. ESFJ, romantic, adventurer. ISTJ, practical and a leader. ISTP, traditional, as well as an advisor. ISFP, everyday artist. ISFJ, friendly and a neighbor. INTJ, innovative, visionary. INTP, creative, scientist. INFP, artistic and a dreamer. INFJ, sage, mentor. ENTJ, hardworking and a visionary. ENTP, inventive, innovation. ENFP, a dreamer and a seeker. ENFJ, people, visionary. So I'm encouraging you to reflect on your own preferences and tendencies and to be able to see some of the nicknames that have been given here. How does it suit your personality type? I'm sure a lot of MBTI, the results that you found fall under this category. So how does that fall into your personality type in your own personal life as well as in the workplace? How does the strengths and weaknesses that you have found to be aligned with this very personality type also align with your own life, and how does it make sense for you? Just as who had said in the chat box, I think it's Mary who had said in the chat box that she works as a well-being educator, and she sees how leading her fellow youth into a calm space where they can talk about issues in a safe space makes sense for her. So as we wrap up, just to see how the personality types interact with the world, make decisions, are organized and absorb information, we have seen that introverts often like working alone, while extroverts are energized by people. Absorbing information, sensors are realistic people who like to focus on the facts and details, whereas intuitives prefer to focus on possibilities and the big picture. Then in decision making, thinkers will tend to make their decisions using logical analysis, whereas feelers will tend to be sensitive and cooperative and decide based on their personal values. Then when it comes to organization, judges will tend to be organized and prepared, while perceivers prefer to keep their options open, like to be able to act flexible while making their plans. So I think I'll finish at reflections. I want to encourage participants to share insights and observations about their own personalities and how they manifest in their activist role. So as we wrap up, and you've been able to understand aspects of your personality types, either as an extrovert or an introvert, or as a thinker, as a feeler, as an intuitive, as a sensor, as a judger, perceiver. How do these different facets of your personality play into your activist roles and also in your own personal life? I'd love to hear your insights as we wrap up. You can share through the chat, or if you want to speak, you can raise your hand. Okay, so Francis says this is great learning. Kindly share the presentation. Yes, it will be shared. Mwikali says, can an individual show both introvert and extrovert equally? Not necessarily. One will have to be more than the other, but you will feel comfortable doing more than the other. If you take time to really introspect and follow your day-to-day life and how you do things, you'll find that either you're more inclined into introverted activities, or you're inclined into more extroverted activities. And just to clarify, I think that's something I had not mentioned, is that introversion is not basically how quiet you are or how alone you how you don't like interacting with people. It's basically how we recharge. Introversion and extroversion is basically how we recharge. So extroverts feel more comfortable recharging in social interaction. So you'll find them around people, and that's how they feel like they're being able to raise their social battery. Whereas introverts feel like they're recharging their social battery by being on their own. So basically, individuals are either recharging through being in social interaction, or being in solitude, or being by themselves. So when you try to weekly look at how you live your day-to-day life and the activities you engage in, you'll find that you're more inclined to do one than the other. But as we had said, no one does one completely and leaves the other. You'll find that there's a balance, because in percentages, you'll find that you're either more inclined to maybe you're at 70% extroverted, so you like doing extroverted activities, but that doesn't mean that you don't also enjoy being by yourself and doing introverted activities. And as Sarah has mentioned, they are called ambiverts. So I'm inviting you to share your experiences as we wrap up. Salim says that the test brought out my personality 100%, especially the I and the P plus the A. I'm glad you're able to resonate and get an aspect of self-awareness, Salim. Thank you for sharing. You can raise your hand as well if you want to share something. Alan will be able to unmute you. I'm really inviting us to, speak up so that we can understand each other and how our personalities are influencing our roles as civic actors. How do you think it's playing a role into, the work that you do to be able to help the greater good? We can share in the chat box, as well as, raise our hands if we'd want to speak. Okay, so I'm thinking silence means we are on the same page. I'm sharing with you my email on the chat box, michaeldiana445@gmail.com. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be able to break it down to you a bit further so that you can be able to understand. Kasoga Jacqueline says the test brought out the real me. Wow. I'm glad that you're able to gain a level of self-awareness from the session today. So I think our time is well spent. I wouldn't like to take further time, and I'm going to pass it on to Salima, I think, to be able to wrap up the session. Thank you, Salima.
Oh, thank you, Dana. Colleagues, participants, friends, family. Please just on the chat, let's just appreciate Diana for the good insights, learnings that she's shared with us. And I'm glad that people are chatting, just saying that it's brought the real you. And that's the whole sense, the whole essence of this topics that we are undertaking during this month of May. So if you can just kindly just appreciate Diana on the chat the best way you know how. I don't know if it's the emojis or a clap or something. Yeah, so we can see. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're glad that you've learned. Thank you, Aaron. Is it possible we share the contents in our email? It's very important for our reference. Maybe even what we can do, because we also have participants from Tanzania, Uganda. We can put that on our social media platforms where all of you can access the recording, the presentation from Diana, and maybe any other tools and resources that the facilitators will be sharing with us from day one, that is last week, this week, next week, and the other week. So we shall post all those in our social media platforms. Aaron, if maybe you can just take advantage of that, unless maybe you have a very specific question directed maybe to us as an organization or Diana who spoke about personality, you're free to reach out to her personally in her email or on our website, or also our emails, because they are provided for. Thank you. Great insight, Diana. Very insightful and empowering. We are grateful. Thank you that also you're finding these sessions very educative and insightful. Yes, thank you, Sarah. So maybe as we wrap up, maybe just for us is just to encourage that when we share the links, please share with others, because we want also to learn together, to move together, and that's the theme for this month. Just movement, like moving together, not even literally like physical, also emotionally and physically, psychologically also, so that we don't leave anyone behind in our learnings. And I think as Diana spoke about, even the importance of trying to understand our personality is so that even our significant others, our relationships, our careers are also enriched. And once they understand, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so that at least we are also learning, and also as we are human rights defenders, we are also taking care of self. Thank you. So, yeah, karibu sana Kibuja. That's my mentor also. So next week we shall be having a topic on stress and stress at the workplace. And when we say workplace, let me just clarify, it's not necessarily the conventional way we understand workplace. Workplace can be even our hustles, the day-to-day things that we do even to earn a living in our space, in our what do we call it, vibanda, in our discussions informally. So what we do, and it can be paid or unpaid. So work is not necessarily you being employed in an organization or institution. It's just the small things that you do on a daily basis, paid or non-paid. So next week we are having that conversation. Please just share the links as widely as possible with your communities, with your networks, with your constituents, so that all of us could benefit. And maybe even you can even tell us what are the topics you think we could cover going forward, because we want to make this as a practice. It is easy even to reach a wider scope of people using webinars, and online platforms. Maybe it is hard to get to everyone physical, but these platforms also are helping us to reach a wide scope of people, but also we'll really need your help to spread the message across. So please, also you can engage us on our social media platforms and just tell us which other topics maybe will be of interest to you, so that we can also tailor-made these sessions just to benefit us. Otherwise, asanteni sana. Thank you so much for those who've joined. You've stayed until the tail end, and I'm so sure you've learned and you are telling yourself you'll practice and also share the knowledge and the information with others. Thank you so much. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and the holiday tomorrow. Let's take care of ourselves. Thank you.